This YouTuber right here challenged me to the ultimate Stardew Valley competition. The rules were simple: stick to your half of the farm, no exploits, and most money earned by the end of the 100 days wins. You're in for an absolute treat with this video. It's full of highs, lows, shenanigans, and a thrilling conclusion that you are going to want to stick around for. To be honest, with the amount of bugs and glitches we had filming this, it's a miracle we even made it to the end. So if you do enjoy this video and you want to see more like it, then subscribe to the channel and like the video. But without further ado, let's get right into the competition. My heart was racing and my blood was pumping as I waited for Sharky to unpause the game on day 1. And before I knew it, I was let loose and the competition was on. I raced off with my parsnip seeds in hand, but instead of planting them down, I dashed out into the valley to forage anything I could find, and prayed that Sharky didn't have the same idea, because there's only one valley but there's 2 of us. I caught the first sight of my competition in town, and it seemed Sharky had picked up on what I was doing. I split off from him as we rushed into the cindersap forest, and I'm glad I did because I managed to pick a bunch of spring onions, which was sure to come in handy for energy later on. I circled into town so I could purchase a few more parsnip seeds and headed back to the farm. Now I know what you're thinking, a greenhouse? That thing shouldn't even be ready yet. You'd be correct, and it's actually split in half from this cool mod that Sharky found. In all honesty, we decided to add it to spice up the competition a wee bit. So it was here I decided to plant my parsnips. My initial thought was to plant them in here to stop crows from eating them. I find out later on that I'd miss out on rainy days because of this decision, but it's fine. Outside on my half of the farm, I got to chopping down trees. You may notice it takes an extra second for my wood to register and pick up. That's because Sharky is hosting the server all the way over in the UK, and I live in New Zealand, meaning that the server is stretching to the absolute maximum to keep both of us on the server. But hey, I won't let that get in the way of victory. Instead, I picked up my bootstraps and made myself a chest and headed through town to the beach. Thankfully, Sharky hadn't been here yet, and I got to forage a couple of items while I was here. That was before I decided to sneak around town in the dead of night looking through everyone's trash. A great first impression, I'm sure, but I'm not here for validation, I'm here to win. As I entered back on the farm, Sharky wanted to sleep. However, I needed to pee. It's seriously the little things that you don't think about when you're trying to film a video. No time to waste on day 2 though, because I was out the door and right to it. Yes, it's raining. Today is the 3rd because we had to sort out some stuff on the 1st and needed to save it, so we started on the 2nd, but don't you worry, I'll keep you on track with the day number anyway. It was today that I realized I had lost a bit of time since I decided to plant my crops in the greenhouse and needed to water them. But not to worry, because I'd make up for that by going around my half of the farm and scything weeds down for mixed seeds. I'll admit there's a few things to explain about this challenge, so I'll point them out as we go. For now though, I gathered a total of 8 mixed seeds, which I planted down and watered next to my parsnips in the greenhouse. A cool feature of this challenge is we can see where each other is on the map in real time, meaning that I can keep a track of what Sharky may be doing and vice versa. Shenanigans are inevitable with this in play, I'm sure. Afterwards, I ran through town and all the way to Gunther to donate a chicken statue I had found to the museum in order to get a small little payment. Hey, any gold is valuable gold in this competition. I then detoured back to the farm all the way back down to the beach, but Willie's cutscene to give me a rod didn't play. So I found Sharky and interrupted his peaceful fishing with my complaints. But over voice chat, he told me to go there before 4 in the afternoon, and I felt a little silly. Nevertheless, I finished up the day chopping down trees in order to make a chest for a day full of fishing tomorrow. Speaking of, it's the next day. The rain had passed and Sharky and I were back on the same page as we both had to water our crops this morning. I then raced all the way down to the beach, met with Willie to get my fishing rod and let Sharky know of my success, to which he responded with, "Yay." Aww. And for a second I forgot we were even competing. But we were competing, and no Sharky YouTuber was gonna beat me. Fired up, I checked the trash cans on the way up to the mountain lake, placed down a slightly hidden chest to help me if my inventory gets full, and cast it out into the lake to make a start on fishing. I'll take some time to explain another aspect of this 100 days, and that is to do with time. You see, a normal single player Stardew Valley time stops whenever you fish, or check your inventory, or you open a chest, etc, etc. However, that is not the case with multiplayer, unless everyone does it at the same time. In conclusion, we both have less time in a day, time is precious, we're all gonna die someday. Also, the UI info suite mod is back, so that's fun. It shows us birthdays, weather, and all sorts, but most importantly, daily luck. I thought I'd install a bit of fear into Sharky as I got home later that night, and headed off to bed. To my misfortune, it was raining again on day 4, meaning Sharky would get another head start on the day while I was stuck watering my crops inside the greenhouse. As I made my way to the mountain lake that morning, I had a quick peek at the map and saw Sharky had decided to go cave diving. And although it was very tempting to join him and burden his expedition, I thought I'm probably better off fishing today since he got a day of extra fishing on day 2. I had some time to make up. And this is what I did all day today. I filled my boots with rainwater and fished until the evening. Before it got too late, I made the effort to transport everything I'd caught over the last couple of days to the safety of my half of the farm. It took a couple of trips to get it all back, and once I had sold off a few things to the shipping bin, I did some donuts outside my cabin. I'm not going nuts, I promise. It's because if I stand still for too long, the game will just boot me for being AFK. It's a whole thing, but I found out the hard way a couple of days ago. Day 5 is the infamous parsnip picking day, so that's exactly what I raced to do to start my day. I passed by Sharky on the way out into town, but I was too excited and got there prematurely. So to pass the time, I did some foraging and dug through some trash cans. Sharky joined me at Pierre's a short time later. Clearly we both had the same idea. So we sold off our parsnips to Pierre and I ran off with a bunch of potato seeds to plant. I stuck to my guns in the greenhouse and decided to stay the no rain but no crows route, and planted down a total of 66 potato seeds, which I had to water, of course. I still had valuable time left in the day to do something productive, and I decided to use that time back at the mountain lake, fishing away into the late hours of the night. It seems Sharky had the same idea, and I found him fishing nearby, so it only felt right to intimidate him once again by standing behind him and saying nothing. Like a couple of besties, we ran home together as if we were working together and not against each other. But then we had to go our separate ways. I was straight back to the greenhouse on day 6 to give my potatoes a much needed watering, and close by I had a few extra parsnips from those mixed seeds I planted, which for now I just shoved into the chest for safekeeping. I exchanged the parsnips for my bamboo rod and headed up to the mountain lake once again. Like I said, the amount of time you lose while in a multiplayer session is actually quite significant, but I was determined to fish until I hit level 5 fishing for the extra cash bonus I get. And despite being a bad luck day, I hauled up a few treasure chests, which I wasn't too mad about. I could feel Sharky nearby. Actually, it's because I can see his icon if he's in the same area, but it was interesting to know that he was copying me. Well, maybe that's a bit harsh, but I wasn't convinced, so I headed home by myself that night, just in case. The rain was pouring down on day 7, and that's great news for Sharky. Meaningless for me, however, since I had the fantastic idea to grow mine in the greenhouse. Once my potatoes were watered, I spent a short amount of time outside chopping trees down for a second chest. Not to brag, but my first one is pretty full of stuff. It was my time to spend some time down in the mines and make what little progress I could in the very limited time that we have. Thanks to Sharky, I was already on level 10, which made a great starting point for my expedition. It was just my luck that the first floor down was an infested floor. However, once I was past that, I was able to get a start on getting my hands on some copper and all of that good stuff. One little problem though, because of the server lag, bugs and ultimately any flying monsters become virtually unavoidable, meaning I'd take damage no matter what. Not saying I was at a disadvantage here, all I'm saying is thank goodness for those spring onions. I only made it down to level 15 by the end of the day, which despite the circumstances I was actually pretty happy with. And I didn't walk away empty-handed, so that's a win in my book. I think it's pretty obvious how day 8 started, but I'll save you the details. But my mixed seeds did give me some extra potatoes today. I put them in a chest for safekeeping. I snatched a few wild horseradishes on the way to the mountain lake this morning, and settled in for a day of fishing. Now that my fishing level was on the rise, I was able to catch a few higher quality fish today, and I'm hoping that'll help me in a few days when we attend the Egg Festival. But in the meantime, all I could do was enjoy the fresh air and perfecting my catches. During the very late hours later that night, I caught my last fish for the day and was thrilled to see that I had leveled up. So overnight I got to choose the Fisher perk for a 25% more gold boost on fish sold. Oh yeah, my plan's all coming together now. Moving right along to day 9, after watering my greenhouse potatoes, I picked out my sword and pickaxe and headed out for another mini adventure to the mines. As I descended down another 5 levels today, I was on the lookout for copper ore, bits of stone I can take home, and if I got really lucky, an ancient seed, which have a chance to drop from slaying bugs. Long story short, they get turned into plantable seeds, which you can then turn into ancient wine, which equals a lot of gold. It's a great item for the late game, but it would certainly be a leg up in a competition like this. Maybe I'll get one later? Nonetheless, as I left the mines that evening, I came across my competitor fishing at the mountain lake. We shared a cute little moment together before I retired back to the farm for the night. There was still precious time left, however, so I made use of it by making my first couple of furnaces and smelting some copper before bedtime. I'd never have to water potatoes again after today, thank God. Day 10 was the last day left until they'd be ready for harvest, so I already had something to be thankful for today. I took a quick sidetrack this morning and paid a visit to the Cindersap forest to get Robin's axe for her, and I thought I might as well pick up the spring onions that had popped up for extra energy. Running all the way to the opposite side of the valley, I handed over the axe to Robin for a bit of extra cash in the pocket. As the day moved through the afternoon and into evening, all I could do was fish my little heart out. The only exciting thing that happened was that night we had a message pop up that Sharky had walked 10,000 paces. So I sent over my congratulations through a message. Turns out he was trying to stay fit, and I respect that. I then got the Mother Catch achievement and Sharky returned the congratulations. I think it's this kind of quality banter that you can expect from a Kiwi and an Englishman who are playing it cool in the heat of competition. I may have taken it too far when I waited for him to catch up later, only to hit him with the 3 dots and tease him a wee bit. Yeah, that's poor sportsmanship on my part. But day 11 is a brand new day, and it began in the greenhouse picking all of my potatoes. Along with the potatoes, I also dumped a lot of extra things into the shipping bin, like gems, artifacts, any bars of copper and quartz I had, and all of the fish I had left over. Tomorrow was an important day, and I need as much gold as I can get my dirty little hands on. As the afternoon rolled around, I found myself back in the greenhouse, making preparations for the strawberry seeds I'd be purchasing and planting tomorrow, leaving a space for sprinklers as I went. You might be thinking, Pox, you just sold all of your copper bars, you dope. How do you expect to make sprinklers now? I hear you, but don't fret, my friends. You'll see in a few days why I didn't keep them for sprinklers. For now, the preparations continued as I put down some stone paths on the sprinkler spaces, and I took some time to water the spaces, saving me valuable time tomorrow. And although it took him 11 days to get here, Sharky finally adopted his side of the greenhouse for what I assume is going to be the same reason as myself. I won't lie, it was nice to have some company. With all the groundwork done and dusted, I got a spare moment to myself to plan ahead and think about my strategy from here on out. But then I got bored and I didn't want to disconnect, so I did figure eights around this tree stump in a tiny tree. The Egg Festival was upon us on day 12, a very important day that could completely change the landscape of this competition. My dirt didn't stay watered overnight though, so I had to deal with that, and Sharky had to do that too, so yeah. Okay, where were we? Oh yeah, right. Important day. We headed into town together and entered the festival. First things first, we both stopped off at Pierre's stall to buy however many strawberry seeds we needed. For me, it was 128, which I was feeling very confident about. Sharky and I shared another cute moment with the bunny cutout. And then it was time for the egg hunt. There's nothing like having a friendly competition amongst a bigger, more intense competition. I took off in the opposite direction than I usually do once it started, but I'm glad I did, because as I added egg after egg to my tally, I managed to find a total of 11 eggs. And yes, I came away the winner. I'll admit, it felt good to win that. But I couldn't dwell on my winnings for too long. Well, just enough to rub it in a wee bit. But I planted down the strawberries in the pitch black greenhouse, put on the straw hat as a stark reminder every time Sharky sees me that I won, and I headed to bed. Riding the high that was yesterday, day 13, I didn't even mind watering so many strawberries, because they taste like victory. I'll explain why I was so cryptic about the sprinklers before. It's because we added a mod that makes them purchasable from peers. That's right, we have the decision to either buy them for 3,000 gold each, or dive into the mines to craft them. For now, I think I'll buy them. So while Sharky was still watering his plants, I got to flex a bit as I popped down my first sprinkler on the farm. Afterwards, I grabbed my rod and headed out to the mountain lake. Quick side note, Sharky found a lost book and I hit him with a "let's go!" I got no reply back, so safe to say I felt a little bit silly. Anyway, it was now in my best interest to keep making as much gold as I possibly could so that I could buy more sprinklers. More sprinklers means less time watering, and in turn more time to focus on other money-making endeavors. Since fishing is by far the most profitable skill for me at the moment, I stuck to it and decided that would be how I'd get the 15 sprinklers I needed for the strawberries. So I started to get into a productive rhythm, water the strawberries, buy a sprinkler from Pierre's, add it to the greenhouse, and fish for the rest of the day, which made me just enough money to buy another sprinkler the next day. It was a stellar game plan, but it gets a bit repetitive, so why don't we just roll it into a bit of a montage. I'm cutting in here on day 20 because it was time for the first strawberry harvest today, but I spied Sharky's ancient fruit plant growing, and I won't lie, that scared me a bit. Only time will tell how scary that really is. For now, I finished off watering the rest of my plants and headed into town. I didn't have any patience to wait until tomorrow for my profits, so I sold the strawberries straight to Pierre. Which was fine by me because I got to walk out there with 7 whole sprinklers. And adding them to my side of the greenhouse right in front of my opponent seemed to put my ego on a very high pedestal. I took that pedestal all the way to the mountain lake and fished for the rest of the day. So yeah, back to the montage. Yes, we did end up skipping the flower dance yesterday, because let's be real, no one values relationships right now. So here we are on day 24 for the second strawberry harvest. Usually that would be the last, however the tactful thing about them being planted in our snazzy greenhouse is they will never die. I dropped by Pierre's to sell off my berries and used some of the money to get 2 sprinklers. I ran all the way back to the greenhouse, and after watering my strawberries for the final time, I finished laying down the 2 final sprinklers. I am so happy to admit that the tedious fishing grind was well worth the effort. So what do I do with all this free time I have? Well, I fish, of course, because what the hell else am I meant to do? Anyway, continuing right along to day 25, I popped into the greenhouse just to admire my setup this morning. I had no crops to water for the first time in 25 days. The sky's the limit and time is on my side finally. I feel like I could do anything. Fishing. Fishing is what I did. Truth be told, I was coming up to level 10, meaning I could get the perk above Angler, which sells my fish for even more gold, which gives me even more reason to go fishing for more gold. Look, it's a dangerous cycle. But gold was the name of the game, and I was determined to win, damn it! I retired the fishing rod for day 26 in favour of planning for the summer season right around the corner. My farm needed space to fit some summer crops, so I got to work clearing out space for a soon-to-be crop field. And as I went, I started to place down stone paths in place of where the sprinklers would go. I know it's a competition, but hey, hand on my heart, I can't help being an organised farmer. As the day wandered on, I kept on clearing out the top side of the farm until I had quite a sizable patch of land to work with. To finish up the day, I placed down a couple of scarecrows for future proofing and double checked that I could hoe the dirt on the edge of the area, because that would have been bad. Before bed, a nosy Sharky hopped across the middle line to come and see what I was up to. We exchanged our classic banter and he even gave me a compliment on my crop fields. I then decided to join him over on his half of the farm and, well, let's just say there's nothing to see here. His words, not mine. I offered some words of Poxial wisdom before heading back to my side and calling it in for the night. Day 27 was our final day of spring, and what better way to celebrate such a momentous day than by fishing all day long. I got level 10 fishing today though, so that's cool. I'm not kidding though, I seriously fished all day. But to be honest, there wasn't too much else I could fill my time with that would be anywhere near as profitable. So fishing it was. I retired home earlier than usual that night. I think I was all fished out. Sharky had filled some of that potential I had mentioned yesterday, but I think he wasn't too happy about it. Now here is where we would usually dive right into summer. However, we quickly realized that the next day would not load, and both of our games were plagued with smappy startup errors. Yeah, remember when I said it's a miracle we even finished this? We thought this was it. This is where it would end. Thank goodness for Sharky though, because he managed to figure out the problem. Turns out it was the modded map we were using causing the problems. The mod slightly altered the four corners map, meaning that we would have to delete the mod and play on a regular four corners map. So with the errors now gone, everything's still working and playing on a slightly different map. We were ready to jump right back into it. I never thought I would see it, but here we are on day 28, the first day of summer. It started off with some strawberry picking and debris clearing from around the farm, all before getting to work under the hot summer sun and hoeing dirt around my crop fields. I didn't have time to be sad, but the corner of this top section couldn't be hoed, and the part of my brain that just loves everything to be aesthetically pleasing was screaming, crying, and throwing up. Eventually I got that done and afterwards headed into town. I popped into none other than Pierre's to sell off my strawberries so that in return I could stock up on blueberry seeds and 11 quality sprinklers. Back on the farm I planted all my blueberry seeds down, except one, and got to the slow task of watering them all. My hard work finished that evening and I got to celebrate by putting down all of those sprinklers I had bought. It doesn't cover the whole field of crops, but I must admit it's a great start. For the first time in this whole video, I've actually got nothing to do, so I just mooched. I put some torches down for light before hitting the hay later that night. After the success that was yesterday, I began day 29 watering the blueberries, not quite fortunate enough to have a sprinkler yet. I even got a quick sneak peek at Sharky's side of the farm on the way out this morning, but I was a man on a mission. That mission being to buy 2 more sprinklers from Pierre's. But hey, that's 2 more sections I don't have to water in the mornings. I still had a lot of my day left to use up, so I decided to head to the bottom half of my side of the farm and start clearing it out, being very careful to leave any oak trees standing so I can tap them later. But yeah, that's about all I did today. I did have a nosy look on the map to see where Sharky had been, and I found his little icon down by the beach, so I think he went fishing for the day. I finally got the benefits of rainfall on day 30. I didn't have to water my blueberries, and I was over the moon with joy. So with all of this extra time and energy, I thought I would hit the mines for the day. Not to mention it was also a pretty good luck day. So I started my expedition today on level 20 and not where we left off last time because I was hoping to gather a bunch of copper. Simply because I needed tappers to put on the oak trees to make oak resin to make kegs, which I can use later for lots and lots and lots and lots of gold. It is a long process, but it all starts with copper, and that's exactly why I'm here. And I was here for quite a while, but I called it quits later that night before it got too late, so that back on the farm I could smelt the ore into bars and turn the bug meat into free fishing bait. God forbid I have to fish more, but it's there just in case. The sun was back out and shining on day 31, but all that really meant was I had to water my blueberries. Then it was back to the mines to dig for copper. You'll be pleased to know my flying monster slaying abilities have improved since I last mentioned it. I've studied and learned the ancient art of lag and have somehow mastered my abilities. But apart from that, it was pretty similar to yesterday. I popped home a bit earlier today to smelt all the goodies I had found before using them to craft my first lot of tappers. I say, a smashing success. I still had some time to kill before bed, so I just cleared out more debris. After watering my blueberries again, I was happy to see a greenhouse full of strawberries on day 32. It was interesting to compare Sharky's side to mine. I'm not saying it's bad. Mine might look a little nicer though, that's all I'm saying. But this was a competition about making money after all, so it doesn't matter how it looks, as long as it's making you that precious gold, that's all that matters. Speaking of gold, I took my strawberries to Pierre's again to sell them off, before purchasing the large pack and a few more sprinklers. Back on the farm, I couldn't help but have a quick peek at what Sharky was up to before putting my sprinklers down on the crop fields. I needed a change of scenery if I were to go fishing again, so I made the decision to fish off the pier instead. Only a couple more sprinklers would take the burden of watering crops every morning off of my hands, so I sucked it up and decided fishing would earn me the gold I needed. So I fished the rest of the day away. It seems I spoke too soon though, because the rain is back and watering blueberries is already crossed off my list on day 33, how good! So I fished out into the ocean, fished until my boots were aquariums. Good thing my straw hat keeps me dry. Oh wait, it's straw. I did take a quick break to buy a couple of sprinklers, and I kept on fishing. I only had one section of blueberries to water the morning of day 34, and after doing a few donuts in the town square, buying the final sprinkler and placing it down on the farm, I no longer had to water crops. Despite the terrible luck today, and partly because I didn't want to fish anymore, I dived into the mines in hopes of reaching deeper levels. I'll be honest, it was going pretty well. By the afternoon I'd passed level 35, and was making great progress when all of a sudden I got jump scared by a certain someone.
Hi, how are you?
So now both Sharky and I were making our way down the mines together. I had to remember to beat him to the ores as we kept on descending. I didn't want to give him an upper hand. We eventually made it to and past level 40, and it was a race for the iron ore. And then he was gone. It's fine. I just thought we had something, Sharky. And then you just go and ditch me like that. Day 35 is an interesting one, not because anything major happened, but it's because of what happened after the day finished. As for what I did today, well, it wasn't anything special. I pretty much just spent the whole day clearing out more of the farm to make room for more oak trees to grow. Also, I got some salads from the saloon for a more of a stable source of energy. Then to finish it off, I redecorated. We've got this instant buildings mod on too, by the way, in case you were wondering how I just did that. So, not too exciting, right? Well, just as the day ended, we got hit with a black screen. Then I got kicked. Did anything for that day save? Absolutely not. So we had to redo the whole day. And now we're all back on track. Rolling right along to day 36, another round of strawberries were awaiting my picking this morning, and after dealing with them, I circled into town to sell them off to the man himself, before using the money at Clint's to buy a couple of piles of ore. You'll also notice I can spend more money at Clint's to get my tools upgraded faster. That's because we're using the Rush Orders mod, just to make things interesting. And so neither me nor Sharky can hog Clint's services for themselves. That afternoon I found myself back on the farm, and in between smelting my ores, I made a start on the crop field extension. Farming is by far the most profitable method of making money, and when put through kegs and preserve jars, you're looking at some major earnings. So there's no harm spending money to make money as far as I'm concerned. I continued to work away on this as the night came. I started day 37 in front of Clint's ripping up his lawn with a few donuts. Sorry Clint, but I'm taking precautionary measures. I was here to insta-upgrade my axe to copper, and I really wish this was in vanilla Stardew. I wouldn't mind spending a couple of grand extra to upgrade tools right away. Nonetheless, I took the axe home to chop down the stumps in the way of my expanding crop fields. I guess you could say they were stumping my progress. I then plucked up the willpower to spend the day fishing. I know, super brave of me. Willie joined me for a while, And then he left. Not because it was getting late, but he was just jealous of how many fish I was catching. My first round of oak resin was ready to gather up the morning of day 38. I used it to craft my first 8 kegs, and I'll be honest with you all, I was feeling pretty good about myself. So good in fact, I actually didn't mind fishing today. Who would have thought that would be the case? I then just fished away the day up at the mountain lake. Nothing else to say really, except for it's day 39. I did some quick math out in the middle of my field to do some calculations before running into town. I popped by Pierre's to get 6 sprinklers, which I placed down back on the farm. I'm just waiting for a strawberry harvest to fund the rest of the sprinklers and seeds. For now though, it was back to the mines for the day for iron ore. I'll need to keep on top of my iron and copper ore every week so that I have enough bars to craft kegs as soon as my oak resin is ready. Truth be told, I'm gearing up for a big pumpkin season in fall so that I can turn them all into juice. But shh, don't tell Sharky that. It's day 40, and lucky for me, I have a strawberry harvest that I can fund the rest of the sprinklers and seeds. I even got to shove a few into my kegs for strawberry wine. Don't mind me stalking Shane, by the way. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, with the gold from the strawberries, I got to purchase the remaining sprinklers I needed, and the extension was ready for seeds. When I get more gold someday soon. In the meantime, I took some time to lay out plans for further crop field extensions. The prospect of so many crops was looking quite appeasing. That afternoon I took off to the south to the cindersap forest to gather some wood. But there was an obvious lack of trees around, meaning a certain someone had come through before having the same idea. However, there were a few trees left for me to chop down, and I finished up the day doing just that. I woke up feeling blue the morning of day 41 because there was a sea of blue in the crop fields and I smelled gold. I ran the berries all the way to Pierre's and exchanged them for that wonderful gold, which I used to purchase 4 more sprinklers and a bunch of melon seeds. These are going to make a nice profit, I think. As I was getting the fields ready for my melons back on the farm, Sharky paid me a visit, and well, he didn't seem too happy about all the progress I had made. I tried to ask him why, but he just ran off. Just like he ran away from me in the mines. Let's be real, he probably had something important to do. I continued to hoe dirt, put my 4 sprinklers down, planted all the melon seeds I had bought, and got to watering them. By the time I'd finished with the melons, it was getting late, so before bed I whacked a few more trees down for wood, and waited patiently for Sharky to get home so that we could sleep at the same time. I checked in on my kegs, my oak resin, and strawberries to see if I had anything to do on the farm this morning. But there was nothing to do, until Sharky made a whole ass pond appear right before my very eyes.
Magic.
I'll be interested to see what he's up to with that. As for my day, well, I just bought some bait from Willie and fished off the pier all day. Yep, another day of fishing. Until it got late, of course, then I headed home for the night. So we should probably move on to day 43. Once again, nothing on the farm needed my attention, so what better way to pass the time in a productive way than dive down the mines for ores. This time I stuck to the higher levels so that I could stock up on more copper ore. I think it was getting a bit late into the run to make an ancient seed profitable. However, I could probably pick it up as a reward from the museum since Sharky got one. But hey, I've got way better money making methods in the works anyway. Also, fun fact, bombs have a delay due to the lag. I thought it looked funny. Anywho, I culled the grub population by getting a monster slayer goal done and let Sharky know that I was all business. To which Sharky replied, "You tell him." I will, Sharky, I will. Another strawberry harvest is how I started day 44. I was going to hand them over to Pierre like I usually do, but forgot it was Wednesday. I could rant on about how Wednesday is a stupid day not to be open, but we'd be here for a while. Instead, I detoured back home to chuck them into the shipping bin and headed back over to Clint's, so that I could buy a bit more copper and coal to smelt. As for the rest of the day, well, I just chopped trees in the cindersap forest. I've got kegs to make. Wood doesn't just grow on trees. Well, does it? It is the tree. Does it grow on the tree? Is that statement true? I don't know. Later that night, I was being intrusive and peeking around the other half of the farm looking at what Sharky was up to. But then he spotted me, so I ran away. Day 45, I awoke to a field full of juicy blueberries, so I got to picking all of them. No words were spoken as I passed Sharky this morning. We were both locked in and focused. I was on my way to Pierre's to sell off my blueberries, and in an odd turn of events, I decided to buy 4 peach saplings. The greenhouse has these 4 spaces for trees, and peaches are one of the most profitable fruits, so hey, I might as well try and make good use of them. Close by, my oak resin was ready for another week, which I used to add another 8 kegs to my ever-growing collection. I took off for a change of pace in the latter half of the day, deciding to fish the rest of it away down over the ocean. It seemed that Sharky had the same idea and joined me for a bit of peaceful fishing soon after. There are some moments I have to remember that this is a competition, and this is one of those moments. I didn't let the thunder get me down on day 46, even though there was nothing on the farm to do. I still managed to get a copper hoe upgrade over at Clint's. I put a chest beside my kegs to help with future organization. I even hit up the mines for more copper. I was having a great time until this happened. Then I was not having a fun time. So I'm very happy to move on to day 47. My first lot of strawberry wine was ready to be gathered, which I immediately replaced with more strawberries, before storing the first lot in my chest for a rainy day. I did seem to be supporting a healthy amount of gold in my pockets, so I thought I should splash a bit and reward myself. How do you do that in Stardew Valley? Well, you get yourself a couple of tool upgrades, that's what you do. Specifically, I got a copper pickaxe and a copper watering can upgrade. On the way back home, I repeated old habits and stalked Sharky at the bus stop. First Shane, now Sharky, who's next? As for the rest of the day, I stumbled into Sharky down at the beach, and we both fished away the day again. He kept his distance from me this time. I think from all of this fishing and zero personal hygiene, I'm starting to smell a bit like the ocean, so fair enough. It was a strawberry picking kind of day to start day 48. I couldn't be bothered running all the way to Pierre's, so I dumped them into the shipping bin instead. That being said, I did run all the way to the mines to continue the adventure downwards, and I got to put my trident dagger that I had fished up yesterday to work slaying monsters. I wasn't in any rush, so I made sure to mine all the iron and good loot while I was down here. I called it quits later on, having reached level 65, and ran away with an inventory full of goodies. I think it's to no one's surprise that I was happy to see a field full of blueberries this morning, and of course I had the pleasure to pick all of them, which again I just dumped into the shipping bin. Afterwards I made my way through town and back over to Clint's, just so I could pick up some extra copper to smelt back on the farm. On the way back I popped into Pierre's quickly to purchase some more sprinklers, which I placed down back on the farm to finish up the crop field extension. Fall is coming up quickly and I need as much space to grow pumpkins as I can. I saw Sharky was down in the mines and I did consider going to intrude on his day, but I thought I'd just leave him to it. Just kidding, I let my intrusive thoughts win. I barged right in there and tried to steal as much iron as I could. With our competitive efforts, we actually managed to get all the way to level 80. Although time had crept up fast, and for the first time in this whole video, I passed out right on my doorstep. But it doesn't matter because it's day 50. We are halfway through this competition and I actually have no clue who's winning. Nobody does. And that scares me. But all we can do is keep on going until a winner is crowned. I double checked everything on the farm but nothing needed my attention. So I flew right back to the mines to continue the dive to the bottom. These levels are where I'm able to mine up gold, which might come in handy later as extra cash in the pocket. But I was glad to have the bone sword I had picked up yesterday to help me fight the monsters down here. And after a day's worth of adventure, I managed to make it to level 90, where I got a brand spanking new sword. All before sleepy times, and it was Sharky's turn to pass out. If I'm being honest, day 51 was just a repeat of yesterday. There was nothing for me to do on the farm, so I hit up the mines for the day. Only difference being, when I made it to level 100, there was a big juicy purple starfruit waiting for me. Although the game gave it away in the chat, so now Sharky knows, but hey, he was gonna find it at some point. I just wish it wasn't straight away. But that extra energy will be a bonus. And I got level 5 combat. I was graced with a generous greenhouse full of greenery on day 52. Well, that's quite fun to say actually. Not to mention another round of oak resin needed my picking, and I was able to make another 8 kegs to add to my collection. Then I stood around for a bit. I think I was doing some very important calculations. As the afternoon rolled around, I took off south again to chop trees. I'm starting to figure out that if I can get to a high enough foraging level, I can get tree fertilizer, which will help me grow more oak trees, meaning more oak resin, resulting resulting in more kegs a la more money. Plus I still wanted wood for things anyway, so it worked out both ways. But tree chopping took up a lot of my time, so it's right on to day 53. Not only did I have blueberries ripe for picking, but so were my melons. I was a very happy man. I went around picking both melons and blueberries, very satisfying by the way. And while I dumped the blueberries into the shipping bin, I'm holding the melons to turn into wine. Since melon wine is almost double the selling price of strawberry wine, it's a no-brainer really. I then ran through the rain and over to Pierre's because I wanted to purchase wheat seeds and speed grow. You see, with speed grow the wheat will be ready exactly on the 1st, as wheat won't die at the change of the season, ultimately saving me time on the 1st of fall. I may be aesthetically pleasing, but I'm also a smart little cookie. As for the rest of the day, I had a gander at Sharky's side of the farm. I bought some more salads from Gus, and I did a quick bit of fishing down by the beach, all before heading to bed. It seemed I wasn't quite finished fishing though, as I continued my fishing efforts onto day 54. And I did not stop fishing until the sun was well gone below the horizon, only just making it back in time that night for bed. It was the final day of summer on day 55, and there was nothing more important this morning than convincing Sharky to attend the moonlight jellies with me. He said yes, and I was very happy. I paid Robin a visit this morning for the first time ever. I opted to buy my wood rather than work hard for it, but that's okay, I had a bit of spare change to throw around. You'll also notice that you can buy hardwood. We added it just in case, but no one used it anyway, so who cares? You don't. Moving on. I made it back home where I put together some preserve jars. My initial plan was to use them for peaches, hence why I placed them down in the greenhouse. This changes very quickly. For now I was content, and I passed the time chopping rogue stumps for hardwood, mooching around the farm, and doing donuts in town waiting for Sharky. Eventually he arrived and we headed to the festival together. Lewis launched the boat and we got to watch the moonlight jellies arrive at the shore. And of course, listen to musical brilliance. It's day 56, and with that the fall season is finally upon us. Just as I had planned, the wheat I had planted was ready to harvest, which was going to be a big help today. Along with the wheat, I scythed away my now dead blueberry plants, then got to work hoeing the rest of the dirt up in preparation for pumpkins galore. Quickly running into town, I paid a visit to Pierre's where I purchased a staggering 416 pumpkin seeds, which I got to planting back down on my side of the farm. Strangely, I had 2 seeds left over. I thought I'd calculated to only have 1 because of, that one annoying spot, but I couldn't put off watering any longer, so I finished that up as fast as I could. As the evening crept up, I realized that we had another strawberry harvest in the greenhouse. Good thing I saved myself time. And I decided to switch out the idea of preserving peaches for strawberries instead, and I dumped them into the chest for safekeeping. The mystery of the extra pumpkin seed really took over my conscience that night. But it does seem that I have filled every spot, so I concluded that I just counted wrong somewhere in the mix. My field of pumpkins were a beautiful sight to behold on day 57. There's a slight hint of profit in the air this morning. I started my day clearing debris out from the farm before running all the way through town and over to Clint's. I was here to pick up a few ores to smelt and a bunch of coal. The coal I used to make a few more preserve jars to add on to the ones I already had. Then it was off to Robin's. But it's Tuesday, so she isn't there. You'd think after so many hundreds of hours of playing this game I'd remember that. I finished off the day chopping down what little trees were still standing in the cindersap forest for wood, and dumped some strawberry wine into the shipping bin. And hey, would you look at that, level 5 foraging! I wasted the morning away on day 58 looking for trees to chop, and since there were hardly any standing, I decided to use Robin's services instead. Before heading home, I circled around to Clint's to pick up even more coal, and I used all the materials to make a few more jars as my plans had slightly changed. Basically, I was going to keg all of the pumpkins and preserve all of the strawberries, and anything else I could fit in around it would be an extra bonus towards the final tally. To continue my brilliant plan, I planted more acorns in the bottom section in hopes of growing a few more oak trees before winter. And to round out the day, I went around the valley in the dead of night chopping trees and foraging anything that I could find. The first batch of strawberry jelly was ready and waiting for me in the greenhouse on day 59. Part of my brilliant plan was to move the jars from out of the greenhouse into the bottom section of the farm, for both ease of access and because the plan is to make a buttload of them. So I loaded them up with more blueberries and had the pleasure of collecting another round of oak resin from my oak trees. No surprises, I turned them into more kegs and extended my collection by another 8. Afterwards, I took off in search of more trees. In my head at the time, I was trying really hard to get my foraging to level 7. Like I said, to craft more tree fertilizer, to grow more trees, get more oak resin, yada 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 yada. In hindsight, it was a very out of reach goal, but did that stop me right now? Of course not. I exhausted my efforts by the evening and thought a good use of my time could be spent fishing on the pier, so I did exactly that. By the time I got home later that night, my first batch of melon wine was ready to be collected, which I replaced with even more melons. Gotta ferment something while those pumpkins are growing. Day 60, the strawberries were ready for another bountiful harvest, but since I had a few spare in the chest anyway, I dropped by Piers to sell them off for some instant profit. While in town, I thought I might as well buy a pile of iron ore and some hardwood from Robin. Yes, this is the one time I buy it, but it's for something truly useless. What might that be, you ask? Well, I'll tell you shortly. I popped into Sharky's house for no particular reason and was shocked at what I saw. I had so many questions. How long has this been going on for? How much gold had this made him? Why was he keeping secrets from me? Okay, well, I know why he hid it, but this made me nervous. You may be wondering how I responded to this shocking revelation. What did I do to get back at Sharky? I made a horse stable. See, here it is. I moved it up here beside the house. And I made a path to it. Now, there was a reason I got Stella the steed. Remember how I wanted to get level 7 foraging? In my head at the time, I was trying really hard to get my foraging to level 7. Like I said, to craft more tree fertilizer, to grow more trees, get more oak resin, yada 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 yada. Well, I thought a horse would allow me to get around faster. But look how slow it is! I can run faster than this horse moves! I'm sorry, why did I think this would be a good idea? I didn't even get that much done today because I was moving at the same pace as I would be horseless. In better news, I got to collect another assortment of strawberry jelly and start a new batch of jam. But I think it'd be better if we moved on to day 62. I wanted to keep using Stella because I'm stubborn and kept telling myself it was definitely worth it, when it most certainly was not. I took her to see the ocean today. I wanted to make up for my bad purchase in some way, so fishing it was. That was until I saw that Sharky had caught a legendary fish. You could say I was influenced to do the same on day 63. I wanted to catch a fish worth loads of gold and have my name pop up too. If I could, I'd fish for legendary fish all day every day, but you can only catch one of each per save file. So it was back to fishing on the pier again. At least I had Stella with me to keep me company. What feels like the 100th round of strawberries needed picking the morning of day 64. Not that I'm complaining, I'm very grateful for my strawberries. Although I left the greenhouse and I seem to be down a stallion. My strawberry jelly was the last of my concern as I asked Sharky if he had done the unthinkable and stolen my horse. He replied with no. So on my way to investigate, he all of a sudden found it outside the store. Well, I'm not buying it, but joke's on you, Sharky, because my steed is slow as hell, so you really just did me a favour. After selling the strawberries to Piers and nabbing some coal from Clint's, I was interrupted by Sharky trying to justify his actions, saying that he needed a taxi service, and he asked how much I charged. I said 1,000 gold per gallop, because, you know, inflation. The cheeky bastard said no problem, I'm loaded. That is one brash shark. Back on the farm, I asserted some more dominance, collected up more strawberry jelly, and shoved more strawberries into the jars for another batch. To round out the day, I smelted some iron, dumped a few jars of jelly into the shipping bin, and mooched around the farm until bedtime. Absolutely nothing needed attended to on the farm this morning, so day 65 started up at Robin's, doing donuts on Stella. At least I have a friend to do the donuts with now. I was here to purchase piles of stone and wood because I am too lazy to get it myself. Simply to make more preserve jars. I even did it twice. Although I couldn't quite afford the coal, so I only managed to get 16 more, but hey, that's pretty good. And I was happy to add them to my collection back on the farm. That afternoon, I can confidently say I didn't do anything productive. Still, I got a very extensive tour of the farm, that's for sure. I did harass Sharky on the way home that night, but all I got was him making fun of how slow Stella moves. It was all happening on day 66. First, my melon wine was ready for gathering, which I immediately shoved into the shipping bin since my funds were looking a little sad. Next was gathering my oak resin and tapping a tree that had grown. Third on my list was to make a few more kegs and slap them down with the other ones. And then I was back to the mines. It's been a hot minute since I had been down here, and I decided to stick to the iron levels for, and this may shock you, iron.
Wow.
But by the late afternoon, I was pretty satisfied with the amount of iron I had mined. So I switched it up and went to the copper levels for a while. I was here for the rest of the night, and I finally got to use my farm warp I'd picked up ages ago. A third of my pumpkins are ready. That may seem confusing. Well, remember when I used the speed grow for the wheat that I planted at the end of summer? Well, it sticks around if you don't unhoe the dirt, hence why this lot grew faster than the others. Operation Strawberry Jelly Pumpkin Juice, or SJPJ for short, was in full swing. Speaking of, another batch of jelly was ready to gather at the same time. And despite the lack of strawberries to preserve, I decided to not let time go to waste and preserved melons in the meantime. Sharky and I crossed paths as I finished up buying more pumpkin seeds and leaving pears soon afterwards. And back on the farm, I planted down those pumpkin seeds to grow for even more wondrous pumpkin juice. After such a busy morning, a change of pace was well deserved. So I just fished the day away, enjoying the sound of rain and the thought of Sharky hopefully freaking out that I already have pumpkin juice in the works. I'll admit it, day 68 was a little less exciting. There was another strawberry harvest and I thought I'd dump them straight into the shipping bin. There was also a bit of ore smelting going on, and then there was more fishing. You'll notice Stella isn't with me much anymore. That's because I gave up on her. She's just so goddamn slow. 2/3 of my pumpkins are ready, and on funny number day no less. There were a lot of pumpkins to pick this morning, but the thought of the profit they would bring brought a smile to my face. I even added a couple more spaces for more pumpkins to try and squeeze out as much money from this harvest as I could. And then it was off to Pierre's, to buy more pumpkin seeds of course. I finished planting all 312 pumpkin seeds by the mid-afternoon, and I still had 2 extra. That is no coincidence, surely. I didn't have time to theorize, however, because I had to put down another scarecrow to cover the extra crops and run laps around my preserve jars. Yeah, not too sure why. Oh, it's because they were gonna be ready. I thought I was losing it for a second there. And so I put in another round of melon/strawberry jam to be made before bed. I made 10 more preserve jars to start day 70. Sure, I may have cut out buying all the materials for them from all the vendors, but this becomes pretty standard every time I make more. I also chopped trees down today, so that's pretty cool. Chopped down quite a few actually. It was quite fun. Also, Sharky made a shed. He seemed pretty happy about it. And now I want one. Heading outside on day 71, I was treated to my first batch of pumpkin juice. Juice doesn't take as long as wine to ferment, so you'll be seeing quite a lot of this. I became involved in a game of monkey see, monkey do this morning. Sharky fishes up a legendary fish, I fish up a legendary fish. Sharky starts using a shed, I build one to start using a shed too. He's got some great ideas that I just like to steal. So I placed down the kegs in my brand new shed and filled them up with pumpkins again. Then I put one outside so I didn't have to keep popping in to see if it was ready yet. Discontent with just one shed, I made another. This one will eventually hold my jars, but I'll move them when they're not preserving jam. Later that evening I ran into Sharky while hunting for trees to chop down. Safe to say we both had no idea what either one was doing. After another strawberry harvest and ripping up Robin's front yard with some donuts, I started day 72 with a commission from Robin's for a big shed upgrade. Did I know that instant buildings only happen when you're on the farm? No. No, I did not. Would I have to wait for it to be built now, inconveniencing me highly? Yes. Yes, I will. I found Sharky lurking beside my sheds when I got back. I think someone's a little jealous. I was going to move the jars into my shed, but since it's being worked on, I had to settle for another batch to be made under the stars. To wrap up the day, I bought some more salads from the saloon as I was running low, and fished while watching the sun go down. However, I let time slip away from me in the late hours of the night and may have passed out on the way home. Not to worry though, because day 73 is a brand new day, and with it came another round of oak resin, and I placed down 9 more kegs to my collection. I really wanted a big shed upgrade for my kegs, and I had learnt my lesson from yesterday. The only thing holding me back was the lack of funds, so instead I took my frustrations out reeling in fish for the rest of the day. I made it home in time tonight though, so I'll take the win. Adding to my wins, the first thing I did on day 74 was insta-build that big shed upgrade, and now I had space for so many more kegs. Afterwards, I returned to the familiar site of the mines and farmed for copper on the higher levels. Either I wanted to work hard for my materials, or I was killing time until I had more money from juice and jam. Either way, I was having a much more enjoyable experience slaying monsters now that I could one-hit them. The rain wasn't dampening my mood the next day because as I rounded the corner this morning, I was greeted by profits galore in the sweet forms of jam and juice. The pumpkin juice was the first to be sorted. I rearranged the kegs in the shed in a more accessible way and filled them back up with more pumpkins. Then I sorted the jam by collecting it all, gathering up the jars from outside and rearranging them into the now finished big shed. I then headed into town to sell them all off to Pierre so that I could purchase coal from Clint's and wood and stone from Robin's, which I crafted all together into 20 more jars and added them to the jam shed. That's right, I'm calling it the jam shed now. And you know what, the others shall be known as the juice shed. There isn't too much to be said about the rest of the day except that I stalked Sharky all the way home from the Cindersap forest. He didn't seem too happy about it. Look, I know it's a bad habit, but you have to admit, it's pretty funny. There were no shenanigans on day 76, but during another strawberry harvest I noticed my peach trees were finally sprouting fruit, so that was cool. After dumping the strawberries into my jars in the jam shed, I bought a mountain of coal from Clint's. 4 more jars and smelting ores, I guess? I can't really remember why I did that. Nonetheless, it was back to the mines again today. I was here for copper, probably to help craft more kegs and tappers, and to save money as I got into a bad habit buying it from Clint's. Day 77 was no different from the previous day actually. This time I was after iron, and genuinely spent all day here. That was until I got home later that night to smelt it all. So let's move right along to day 78. I got to harvest more pumpkins this morning, which I tucked away for safekeeping. I was tossing up whether or not I should plant something in place of the pumpkins, but ultimately concluded it wouldn't be worth it. Instead, I went to chop trees down in the Cindersap forest for a while, and what better way to finish off a day than running in circles like a nut job. Actually, I was waiting for the jelly to finish, which as I collected, I swapped out the jelly for pumpkins instead. I thought I might as well since I've got the excess, and pickled pumpkin sells for more than strawberry jelly anyway. I was working in the juice shed the morning of day 79. Now, today was an interesting one. Sure, I added more jars to the jam shed after crafting 20 more, but I started to have problems picking up this one jar I had misplaced. I just could not pick it up. Then the peaches I picked from the greenhouse became unobtainable too. And then this happened. That's right, I was stuck on a loading screen that just didn't want to seem to let me through. But it doesn't stop there because things get even weirder. While I was stuck on this screen, I started talking to Sharky, who saw this. Finally, at 1 AM, I was released from purgatory, and I have no idea why this happened. Neither of us do, to be honest. Maybe the server was just having a hissy fit, but that was very weird. And that's it, it's over, right? Wrong. We were stuck sleeping at 2 AM, and I was back in purgatory. Just when I thought I'd escaped. So one restart later, we were back. Did it save? No, of course it didn't. So I had to do everything again. I collected juice, refilled kegs, picked peaches from the greenhouse, made more jars, placed them in the jam shed, and painted my buildings because why not, and I even decorated a little. But thank the good heavens, everything was back to normal on day 80. I could not handle every day being like that. While gathering oak resin this morning, I got to tap a few more oak trees that had grown at the same time. And I managed to add another 14 kegs to the juice shed right after. On top of that, I had the 2000th strawberry harvest to attend to. I sold them off to Pierre and used the cash to buy even more materials from both Clint and Robin to try and make enough jars to fill out the rest of my jam shed. Sadly, I came up short, but I was so close. I can't say too much happened for the rest of the day. I was just praying that it would save, which it did. While waiting for the pickled pumpkins to be ready this morning, I indulged myself with more donuts. Not the food, but rather the action. Anyway, I collected up a batch of pickled pumpkins in favour of another round of the exact same thing. I am trying to utilise the surplus amount of pumpkins I've grown because I won't be able to juice them all by the end of the 100 days, so preserving them is the next best thing. Repeating a similar path to yesterday, I sold the pickled pumpkins to Pierre and bought piles upon piles of stone and wood from Robin. This time, however, I was more successful in filling my shed full of jars, and what a beautiful sight it was. But my productivity came to a screeching halt afterwards, instead opting to put on my decorator hat and making my sheds look pretty. I did this all night long. And even continued on to day 82. After picking the final pumpkin harvest, of course, I couldn't miss out on that now, could I? I wish I could say otherwise, but I am a sucker for a good decorating session. I even added grass. What a madman. And a path to the oak trees. He's crazy. But I will give myself credit for what I had access to. I didn't do too bad of a job. Day 83 marks the final day of fall, and it began by collecting up another round of juice and, you guessed it, making more juice. Afterwards, I started clearing out some of the top section of the farm. Why, you may ask? For a coop, which I upgraded all the way to a deluxe coop. I have a devious little plan brewing. It's got nothing to do with the competition, but a devious little plan indeed. I summoned a silo to go right beside it too. Don't worry, you'll find out soon enough. For now, I wandered across to Sharky's side to have a sneaky look into his sheds. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm glad I stayed up because I got to swap out some pickled pumpkins for another round of pickled pumpkins. And just like that, it was... A cool chill has taken over the valley on day 84, and the first thing on my mind was the fact that I forgot grass disappears in the winter. Come on, Pox, get your priorities straight. Also, Sharky asked about the coop, so I said he'd see what it's for soon enough. Just to be extra devious. I tried to pop into Marnie's to get supplies, but lo and behold, she wasn't working. I mean, why would she? So instead I circled around to Robin's for a stack of stone and wood, then to Clint's for more copper and iron to smelt away over the next couple of days. I then cleared up the oak tree farm since any still growing trees actually won't grow in the winter. Once that was taken care of, I was lucky to pop into the greenhouse because I almost missed out on another strawberry harvest. And I added them to the jam juice chest, all before hitting the hay after a very successful first day of winter. I spent a lot of day 85 ripping up my crop area. I'm in no need of it anymore, and it'd be nice to have the space back. To do what exactly? Make a sub to Poxial sign, of course. Wow. This took up the whole day. And for that, I think you should do what the sign says, because I take time out of my busy competition schedule to do this. And totally not because I had nothing to do. See, even Sharky agrees, and he's my sworn rival. After praising my beautiful sign once more, I began day 86 swapping out another batch of pickled pumpkins with more pumpkins, and shoving them into the shipping bin. Then it was back to Marnie's. She finally decided to run her business today, so I swarmed my coop with a whole brood of chickens. Now that is a lot of chickens, and I was a very happy man. Day 87 was a simple day. I said good morning to my chicks in the coop, collected oak resin from the oak trees, and added a few more kegs to the juice shed right after collecting another batch of pumpkin juice. And of course had to top them off again with even more pumpkins. I bought some hay from Marnie's to put into the silo so my chickens didn't go hungry. Then I splashed some cash around getting steel upgrades on all of my tools from Clint's, because why the hell not? The splashing didn't stop there, however. I also got myself the iridium rod too, because why the hell not? I ended up using it for the rest of the day outside on the pier, because why the hell? It was time for the 3000th strawberry harvest this morning, and after picking some more peaches from my peach trees and putting both strawberries and peaches away nicely in the chest, I headed into town. I passed by Pierre's to purchase the final backpack upgrade. Say it with me now, because why the hell not? And then I was back to fishing, which sums up how I spent the rest of the day. My chicks had grown up on day 89. They grow up so fast, it's so hard being a loving parent. Eggs were the key to my devious plan, but for now I'll leave them somewhere safe. Anyway, more pickled pumpkins were awaiting collection this morning. I returned to preserving strawberries today as I wanted to save the last remaining pumpkins for the kegs. I had to keep an eye on the days we had left and make sure that I didn't keg or preserve anything that wouldn't be ready until past the 100-day mark. There's not much to do in winter, and the only other money maker is fishing. And you bet your sweet tushies I was fighting until the very end. This mindset continued right on to day 90. Today started with fishing and ended with fishing. It's as plain and simple as that. Day 91, I was happy to see that another batch of juice was ready to collect, and I could squeeze in another week of fermenting strawberries, so I went for it. I know, a couple of days ago I said that I was saving the pumpkins for pumpkin juice, but preserving them was faster and it worked out more profitable this way anyway. Nobody confirm nor deny that because I think I was just panicking. Safe to say, I was overfishing, so I headed down into the mines for the day in hopes of reaching the bottom. I was making slow progress, but all of a sudden Sharky popped into the mix and suddenly we were zooming through each level. Through the power of friendship, we bonded together and made it all the way down to level 115. And we ran home together like a couple of besties playing Stardew for the heck of it. Also, I got level 6 foraging tonight, which just goes to show you how unrealistic that tree fertilizer plan was. Day 92 was a stark reminder that friendship was a lie, and the battle was still raging on. Okay, well that's a bit intense, but I had to pick my strawberries this morning from my side of the greenhouse, so that was a little reminder that we were still competing. Soon after, I got to collect another round of jam and replace it with the last of the pumpkins and the rest with strawberries. And after dumping the jam into my shipping bin, I was back to the mines to finish the job. But friendship overpowers all, and Sharky was back to help me finish the journey to the bottom. This was very unnecessary, but also very wholesome. I'll be honest, day 93 was a bit of a nothing day. I tended to my chickens in the morning, then just spent the whole day fishing. Sometimes the grind requires sacrifice, and that's exactly what I was here to do. However, when I got back home that night, Sharky asked me where my coop was. I said it was up here, but he just went to bed. How rude. I'll admit it was pretty close to 2 AM last night, so the next morning he actually told me it looked like a shed to him in the dark, so I can understand that. In any case, I had more oak resin waiting for collection this morning, but I didn't have any use for it now because we were close to the end and wouldn't be making any more kegs. That afternoon, I bought a few more salads from Gus's and went back to fishing. This time in the river, so I could catch the winter legendary fish, the glacier fish. Just for a bit of extra gold. And fun fact, I passed 100,000 steps taken that night. Just thought you'd like to know. Just before bed though, I traded the pickled pumpkins and jam for peaches and strawberries. I was really scraping the bottom of the barrel now, but with only a few days left, I gotta make the most of them. Speaking of making the most of final days, day 95 I was straight back to the pier on that fishing grind. From the early hours of the morning to the final moments of the day, I was fishing. But not too dedicated to pass out. It was time to enact my devious little plan on day 96. I took all the eggs I had collected, loaded them into a slingshot, aimed, and fired on my target. My plan was to annoy Sharky and put him off his game. While he was in his shed, I pelted it with eggs, and then I ran away like the little prankster that I am. But then all of a sudden, Sharky escalated the situation from 0 to 100 by threatening the sub to Poxial sign with a bomb! Yet despite this, I kept slingshotting eggs at him. I think it worked though, and we eventually came to an agreement to let bygones be bygones. As for the productive things that happened today, well, I picked some strawberries, opened the secret woods and chopped stumps, and I tried to block Sharky at the saloon, until Shane knocked a fence down.
Oh my god.
Okay, well maybe this isn't too productive, but I won't lie, it was pretty funny when he came out. We then had a conversation about buying and reselling products. We both agreed that we could buy things and resell them back for a profit, because at the end of the day, it's whoever makes the most money overall, not who has the most money in their pocket. So after another round of jam swapping for more jam to be made in the jam shed, What did I decide to do with this sudden information? I made a buttload of furnaces and smelted gold for a profit. Looking back on it, what a stupid thing to do, but at the time it was a gut feeling and I had to stick with it. I thought if I thought of anything else I probably just wouldn't have the time to see it through. On a better note, I collected my final batch of wine from the juice shed, but yeah, I just kept on smelting gold. Even Sharky had an opinion and that's not what I need right now, thank you very much. Day 98, I continued to smelt gold like a buffoon and made a start on stripping the farm back to an empty shell, in hopes that I could sell off a few things for any extra cash. And yes, the sub to Poxial sign had to go, I'm afraid. I kept at this all day long and finished clearing it out that night, so I dumped anything and everything I could into the shipping bin. Then the juice shed was the last thing to take care of before bedtime. Day 99, I sold off my chickens. It was sad to see them go, but like everything else, their use was at its end. I tried to enter the Adventurers Guild to try and sell off some gear, but I couldn't even get in. So I went back to the farm to smelt the remaining gold I had left. To put myself in a better mood, I bought a candy cane from the night market down on the beach and put it by Sharky's mailbox. No matter what happens, at least I won the hearts of all of you watching. Right? And here we are, I cannot believe it, on day 100. I did have one last strawberry harvest left to pick along with some peaches, which I put into the shipping bin. With not a lot left to do, I tore down all of the oak trees that worked so hard to supply part of my quest for keg domination. I didn't get as many kegs as I hoped I would, but I'm grateful for the ones I did have. I took Stella on one last ride around the farm, showing her where the heat of competition had taken place. But with that, the final day was at its end, and the only thing left to do now was to crown a winner. I don't know about you, but I am nervous.
Oh, God, man. I'm nervous now. This is it. It's all come down to this. What, kind of, so should we go by season? So like spring, summer, fall, winter, kind of what I did first in spring?
Let's talk your point of view, Sharky. Talk me through your strategies.
I mean, I noticed anyway from the start that we were very, very similar. So what I'm about to talk about, I'm pretty sure you did the same thing. I used the money to get more parsnips straight away, planted the parsnips, and I wanted to get as many potatoes as possible. And then using the money from the potatoes to go to the spring festival to get strawberries, because I knew that placing them in the greenhouse was going to be great profit all year round. And he was quite quick off the mark with the sprinklers as well. My original plan was to go and gather the ore and create the sprinklers myself, so I didn't have to spend money on them. But I know that was going to be quite long and grindy, and especially when I saw your sprinklers coming in fast, I knew that I had to buy them myself. So I started buying them like you did. And then towards the end of spring, I was actually starting to already craft preserve jars. I was filling them out in the house and making strawberry jelly. Yes, and then yeah, when we got into summer, it was the same thing. I wanted to go with melons. I wanted melon wine. But yeah, talk to me about your spring and summer. Like,
it was very similar, to be honest, very similar. I think a lot of my money came from fishing. There was a point, like over the last half of spring, I was just doing the same day over and over again. It was like Groundhog Day, where I would go out, I would fish, try and make 3,000 gold, I'd ship it away, and then I'd go out the next day, buy a sprinkler, bring it back, and then I'd go out and do it again. I knew that crops were going to be the way to go. There was a moment where I popped into your house and I saw the preserve jars and I was like, oh man, I'm behind. But honestly, my strategies were very similar to yours. It was like a lot of blueberries, a lot of melons, and then like going into fall was just pumpkins galore.
Every season I was always interested, like, I wonder what crops Pox is going to go with, because obviously a lot of people are different, especially in fall. Like, you could either have gone down the pumpkin route, the cranberry route, like, you know what I mean? But every crop that I chose, you seem to have went with as well. Like, no one really went for crazy. I did get some cranberries, but no one really pumped them out. The same with the blueberries, right? We had similar tactics, but I think you finessed it way better than me. Like, even from the start, like, your greenhouse looked better. It was, you got it up and running faster. And it was the same with everything. You got the crops in faster, your layout looked nicer, it was way more efficient. So even though our tactics was similar, I feel like you finessed it more. So that's, I think it might come down to that in the end. This is it. Right. I'm going to resume.
I'm so scared. I'm so nervous. Alright, I'm going to go. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I have made, in total, 2,103,993 gold.
Oh, that's a lot of money, man. You made 2.1 milli. That's not bad going in 100 days, right?
That is not too bad. That is not too bad. That is a pretty good effort.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh! Are you ready, Pox? This is what I earned. 3, 2, 1.
Oh my god! 3.6 million!
And do you want to know? Do you want me to tell you what that? Yeah, but do you want to? I bet I know what that is. And do you want me to tell you what that would have been?
What is it?
It would have been these last few days of winter. Do you remember when we had that chat where I wanted to just confirm that if we could spend our money on something and resell it, would that be too far, or is that like acceptable? And we both agreed that we could do that, right?
Yes. Yep.
With that information, what did you do? What was your tactic when we found out we could spend our money, buy something, then resell it to get the earnings up?
Like, my first instinct, and the instinct that I went with, was just to smelt gold, was to go to Clint's, buy a whole lot of gold ore and just smelt it.
So what I was doing, and the reason why I thought this is why I had to ask, I went to Gus's. I noticed you can buy beer for 400 gold, but you can sell a beer for 280 gold. I had 500k sat in the bank, and I was like, what shall I do with this money? I went to Gus's just to buy some recipes, some salads and food, and I bought some beer, and I was like, I can sell this for 280, so I spent $500,000 on beer. It was like 2 stacks of beer, and I resold it for like 300k, something like that. And I did that for the last 3 days. And then with that 300k that I had, I bought another beer, sold it again for like 150. And that's what I did for the last few days, trying to use up the money that I had.
300k. Oh my god, that's so smart.
Yeah, really, really pleased. Really good, man. Maybe one day we'll do something different. We'll do another 100-day video, but something a little bit different. Maybe we can sort something out one day.
I mean, hey, if people want to say it. If people want to say it. It's actually crazy that we even got here with how many like mods mucking up and like the farm, like, you know, mods going wrong. And
to be honest, we thought, can you remember when we got to the 1st of summer and we got that glitch where we couldn't leave the farm? I really thought at that point it was over. Like, we couldn't figure it out for the life of us. Like, something was crashing our game every time we tried to leave. And that's why obviously we had to change the layout and just go back to the default. But I'm glad it managed to work out.
So there you have it, Sharky came out on top and won the entire challenge. I just wanted to clear up a few things before the video ends. Sharky did feel bad about using the bear strategy after we finished recording. I was okay with it, I thought he won fair and square, but he went away and did the math and worked out that he still would have won without it. Not by as much, but it wouldn't have changed the outcome in the long run. But it doesn't even matter because I had such a fantastic time recording with him. He's not only an amazing Stardew player, but just a downright amazing person. I can confirm that we are still good friends, even after such a grueling competition. I will link his channel in the description if you want to see the whole competition from his point of view. So if you did enjoy this type of video and you want to see more content with Sharky or other content creators, then like the video and subscribe to the channel so I know you want that. If you've made it this far, then I really do appreciate you so much. As always, you're all wonderful people, so have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.